Hey, it's Professor Monty. Let's look at square roots and the square root function. Okay, so the definition of a square root, b is a square root of a if b squared is equal to a. Let's look at an example of what they mean. Find all square roots of 25. Well, I need to find a number that when I square it, it equals 25. In other words, I'm looking for something squared to equal 25. And notice there's numbers that do that. For instance, if I do 5 squared is 25. That works, so 5 is the square root of 25. But there's also another one. Also notice, is there anything else I can square to get 25? Oh yeah, I can. The opposite of this, negative 5. Negative 5 squared is also 25. So if they're just saying the square root of 25, I get either 5 or negative 5. We're just going to list it this way. Negative 5 and 5. I'm going to box that if you want to put braces around it, whatever you want to do. Those are both answers to the question, what's the square root of 25? Okay, now, the square root function, that's this little symbol right here. Sometimes they call it the radical or the square root. So b is the square root of a. It's still b squared equals a. Same thing it was up there. But when they use this symbol, they're only looking for the non-negative. They call it the principal root. So again, examples. If I have the square root of 9, well, I'm looking for numbers that square to equal 9. Negative 3 does, but there's no negative here. So I'm not using negative 3. That's not one of the principal square roots. It has to be non-negative, meaning 0 or positive. Well, 3 works. And that's going to be my answer. 3 is the only number that works because 3 squared equals 9. And it's non-negative. The only other number that works is negative. It's not a principal square root. This symbol means we're only looking for the principal square root. Okay. Negative, or the opposite of the square root of 1/4. Forget the negative for now. We'll put it on the outside. Well, I'm looking for a number squared because I want it to come out to 1/4. And in fact, the number that works, if I put a 1/2 in there, 1/2 squared is 1/4. The negative's still on the outside. So what actually happens, my answer is I keep the negative. The square root of the 1/4 was the 1/2. But the negative's on the outside. That's my answer. So they're asking for the opposite of the square root of 1/4. Well, that's the opposite of 1/2. Okay, so be careful. If I have a negative on the outside, that's okay. A negative on the inside, remember, I'm looking for a number squared that equals negative 16. The problem is, for any real number, if I plug in negative 4 there, I get positive 16. If I plug in positive 4, I get positive 16. In fact, we're going to see later down the road, this is called a complex number. Right here, we're not looking for complex numbers. We're not going to say there's no solution or it can't be simplified, or we're just going to say not a real number. Not a real number. Because there's no real number that I can square to get negative anything. Okay, negative on the outside was okay. Negative on the inside of a square root, not okay. And then I have the square root of 0, just kind of to throw in this non-negative. Well, because 0. I'm looking for a number squared that's equal to 0. Well, of course, you probably already know that's a 0. And that is our answer. The square root of 0 is 0. The two numbers that are their own squares, the square root of 0 is 0, the square root of 1 is 1. Because 1 squared is 1, 0 squared is 0, so they're their own square roots and their own squares. Okay, practice with these, look at these. We're going to build on these, and we're going to keep going forward. So understand this first step first, and then we'll build on.